Next up, we have Limbus Company, all book references by the main cast. This is from Last Minute Essays. I'm not saying I'm addicted to Limbus Company. I don't need to say it. It's heavily demonstrated. So let's jump into it, because Walpurgis Knock was just announced for either tomorrow or later this week, and I'm probably going to make questionable financial decisions about that. I'm aware. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, even now he sulks like Achilles in his tent.
What? I have no idea where that clip is from.
Achilles? It's the Iliad?
Doom, doom.
I see Stalin. I have no idea what the reference is here.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's Homer! Read a book!
Limbus Company is the third game project of the studio Project Moon, currently in development. After making a management
Wait. Which one did they say? It's how many?
Of the studio Project Moon.
Read a book!
Limbus Company is the third game project
Oh, third. Okay, I thought they said something else. Like, wait, how many have they had?
of the studio
Okay,
Project
it'd actually be
Moon,
kind of crazy if
currently
there's
in
others.
development. After making a management sim and a deck building game, the studio decided that the next title they develop should be a dungeon crawler and the city builder as a fourth test project.
City Builder. Dungeon Crawler is kind of what we got with the dungeons, and honestly, the Mirror Dungeon especially. City Builder. That's what this was initially. This was supposed to be Sim City for the city. Actually, considering how most people play SimCity, this actually fits perfectly. It would make absolutely the most sense possible. If anything, it's disturbing how little they would have to iterate on how normal people play The Sims to make the city work in a city building style game. I'm not going to think about this because it's way too depressing.
Because why typecast yourself to a single genre when you can do all of them?
I love you, Project Moon. Please never stop.
Limbus has been teased for some time now with the reveals of the 12 core characters. And as I said in my Library of Ruina video, the game studio is staffed by a bunch of fine arts nerds, so of course every character is a reference to a work of literature. Initially, the characters were drip-fed on the Twitter account @liberarlimbus, which translates to Free the Limbo, basically.
Wait, that's a real word? I'll be completely honest. I legitimately thought it was just a made-up word that they did to sound unique. I'm also being told the city builder was pushed back to the fourth game in the series where you're actually going to build the city. Yeah. That sounds like it's going to be the first R-rated game I've seen.
First, it was a portrait with the eyes covered, then an emoji, and then a quote from the novel in its author's native language. I would like to apologize in advance to every language I'm about to butcher. With all 12 characters fully and properly revealed, let's dissect the references one by one. In the order the full art was posted on the Twitter account.
Oh?
Though, let me temper your expectations a bit.
Dunce. Yeah. I just realized that's not a shirt. That's his flesh bleeding into the eyes. And okay, let's ignore this.
I'm terrible at actually reading books, and some of these are outside of my cultural
Extremely
circles.
European.
So a lot of this information is brought up from external sources.
Gregor? Roach.
Metamorphosa, ungehören, ungeziefer.
I'm aware Hebrew is written right to left, but the positioning of words keeps resetting when I try to set it correctly. Sorry. Really? I actually didn't realize Hebrew was right to left. I also don't speak any language other than English, and barely English, so that's really not saying much.
Formed into monstrous vermin. Gregor is a reference to Gregor Samsa, the protagonist of Metamorphosis, a novella written by Franz Kafka in 1915. Gregor is a traveling cloth merchant working his butt off as the sole breadwinner of his household, which includes his parents and a younger sister. One day, he wakes up turned into a monstrous vermin. His own body doesn't feel right, he cannot get up from bed properly, no food or drink seems as it was before. At first, his sister volunteers to take care of him, but that relationship quickly grows cold as it becomes more and more obvious that this transformation is not temporary, and communicating with Roach Gregor is difficult, to say the least. You might want to give Metamorphosis a try if you struggle with depression or any other illness that might lead to feelings of alienation, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I can't do this book. I know about it. I know the story. I know the point about it. And I don't even think it's a bad option. But it's one of those things where it's like, that's nice. I'm going to choose not to engage in willful depression. Because this is a book that, if you are not depressed by the end of it, you have not understood it.
Limbus Gregor
Or you're
has
insane.
a roach arm and is surrounded by cockroaches, so the theming is quite overt. His ego, I assume, is called Ungeziefer, which means vermin in German. Kafka was Bohemian by birth, which is currently the Czech territory, but as that was a
Wait, Bohemian was Czech? Oh, I actually had no idea where that was at. I thought it was just a general term.
territory of Austria-Hungary at the time, he wrote in German. However, Kafka was also Jewish, which is why one word of the quote and Gregor's name are written in Hebrew. And the word Ungeziefer, specifically, was used to describe Jewish people by a certain political party that rose to power some years after Kafka's death. Putting the two languages together here seems very deliberate.
I was unaware of that aspect. I was very much not aware of that aspect of that. Considering his aspects of how the person who tormented him in his prologue was his mother. Yeah, and she's very dominant and controlling. Honestly, it's a good thing it's the mother, not the father. Otherwise, there would definitely be a mustache on her. Rodion?
On by chciał so wsem zabycia, wsio zabyć, patą pronuncja i naciat so wsem syznowa. He longed to forget himself altogether, to forget everything, and then to wake up and begin life anew. Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov is an impoverished student in St. Petersburg and the protagonist of the novel Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky, first published in 1866. Despite his poor stature, Rodion views himself as a peer to Napoleon, a remorseless overman, one destined for such greatness that he is not bound by conventional morality that dictates the right and wrong of common folk. One day, both to test himself and to elevate himself out of poverty, he takes up an axe with the intent to murder an old, widely despised moneylender. As the blade of the hatchet ends not just the life of the usurer, but also that of her completely innocent pregnant sister, Rodion very quickly finds out that he is very much capable of remorse. The character art prominently displays gambling, which is a great visual representation both of delusions of grandeur and promises of wealth. And, just like with murder, it's ill-gotten wealth that nonetheless allures people like Rodion with promises of status that would be otherwise unachievable. Her
This, having played through the actual game itself and seeing how they went in directly into gambling with them and they saw the storyline, you can see where there's definitely the inspiration. And they play this very direct with her. In fact, it's actually less direct or more direct than even Gregor's one. Which also makes me feel like there's another shoe drop we just haven't had yet.
ego is called Raskol, a reference to the last name of the novel's protagonist. In translation, it means to split, which is exactly what an axe does to anything that meets its blade.
Chicken.
Ich wollte ja nichts als das zu leben versuchen, was von selber aus mir heraus wollte. Warum war das so sehr schwer? I wanted only to live in accord with the promptings which came from my true self. Why was that so difficult? Demian, the story of Emil Sinclair's youth, is a novel by Hermann Hesse, first published in 1919.
Wait, is that old? 1919. So this would be really early on. Oh, wow. See, here's the thing. I don't know anything about Demian. I even know a tiny little bit about Crime and Punishment. I know a tiny little bit about, intentionally a tiny little bit about freaking Kafka. Demian, still no idea. And I've played through the Canto. I understand what's going on. I still don't know about the book on this one. I did not realize it was that old. It's literally over 100 years old now.
First, the book was published as being authored by the titular Emil Sinclair, who also serves as the narrator of the story. Emil's entire existence is that of a struggle between the physical world, described as Scheinwelt, which can mean either world of light or world of illusions, and the realm of Platonic ideals. It's very much a story of a man trying to climb out of Plato's cave, and the duality between light of ideals and the shadows it casts in the physical world are clearly represented in the character's art. His ego is called Vogel, which means bird in German. A bird breaking out of its own eggshell is a theme present in the story. The bird, representing a person, must first break out of its shell, the world, to truly be born and be able to fly towards the sky and closer to God, or truth that encompasses everything. The novel mentions the Gnostic deity Abraxas as being that presides over all, the good and bad, the true and illusory.
And that did play into the actual canto, where you were very much seeing him be forced to grow up by confronting what he was unwittingly part of and the people who did it. And unlike Rodion's, it didn't feel like a prologue. Okay.
Bonus points for the fact that this metaphor was stolen wholesale by Utena. Go watch
Really?
Utena.
Okay, gonna lose points on this one. I've never watched Revolutionary Girl Utena. I know the plot line roughly. I know the ending. I don't know why the ending means anything because I haven't seen anything prior to that. So I would still be surprised by the end of it because I don't know what I just watched. Yeah, I have a bad habit of finding out the ending of the anime before actually watching them, and this kind of backfired on this one. I've been told it's good, though. This is one I don't know much about.
Have you ever seen a stuffed genius?
What? You know what? I don't even want to ask where the context for that quote comes from because I don't think there's a good answer to that.
Sang is the name of a real Korean poet and writer, but the choice of emoji and quote point towards his 1936 short story Wings, in which the narrator is only ever referred to as I. I'll be...
Oh. I did not know it was actually the writer's name. I thought it was just a character name again. Oh.
To be honest, this one gave me the most issues. The summaries are short and nonsensical, and the author is renowned for his surrealist stream of consciousness style. So, of course, I located...
Yeah, that makes sense. Because a lot of his statements are short and seem nonsensical, and that definitely carried over in game.
An English translation of the story and read it whole.
And that's why there's chickens. The entire thing about the chickens is literally just a reference to wings. Chicken wings. I didn't realize it would be a literal play on the title.
It's like 12 pages. It's way less of a deal than I made it sound.
It's only 12 pages?
In short, it's a story of a man so disassociated that he neither feels happy nor unhappy, lounging around in his sunless room for days. He doesn't know what his wife does all day, but she feeds him and gives him money, even if he does not enjoy the food and has nothing to spend the money on. But over time, he grows curious. He goes out, he wants to know why his wife keeps having male guests in her room that give her money. He wishes to have someone to give that money to. As he stumbles from heavy rain into his house, he sees what he should not have seen, hint hint, and his wife feeds him sleeping pills under the guise of trying to cure him from the cold. At the end, the man finds himself on the rooftop, wanting to shout that he wants his wings, his ambitions and dreams that he used to have back. But the words are never uttered. Hell, the entire story doesn't have one bit of dialogue, it's all tone of voice and summary. Now, I have to admit I feel I missed a lot from this story, both in
So the wife was a whore and she was drugging the husband. Whether he was mentally ill before or after, who knows? I am a little terrified to see how any of this plays into Canto 4 because I'm halfway into it. And that is going to be pretty fucked up, man. Yeah. I'm actually scared to see how this plays out directly.
Translation and due to lack of cultural context. Could it be just a story about a man so depressed he never left his room as his wife turned to sex work to feed both of them? Maybe. but considering that I mentions being 26, the same age as Sang when the story was written, that Korea has been under Japanese occupation all his life, that he suffered from pneumonia that claimed his life a year later, and that Japanese authorities arrested him under suspicion of thought crime, there might be some metaphors here?
Oh. And there's the context. For anyone who doesn't know what exactly... There's a lot of history between Korea and China with Japan and some of the things they did, and also the Philippines and a lot of other smaller countries in Oceania. Comfort women. I'm wondering if that actually might be a reference to that. I don't know nearly enough, and I haven't read the book. And frankly, I know for a fact this is not one I'm ever going to willingly read. Also, 12 pages, so it's a short story at best. But there's a lot going on there, so the context is not missing. Now, whether it's directly relevant to this or not, I don't know. But considering he was arrested by Japanese authorities for thought crime, I would be heavily shocked if it didn't play an aspect into it, which might also play into a lot of what K-Corp does. I don't know. And now I'm wondering, have I been missing context that would be obvious to people who knew the source material? This is legitimately going to bug me now.
You know, the Limbus is standing in an all-white washed-out room, framed in a perspective that doesn't seem to fit his body proportions at all. Around him, splashes of color reflected in mirrors so broken that it's impossible to discern the shapes. Certainly seems to be alluding to...
Also, I just realized, are those rabbits behind him in this mirror? Hard to tell.
A similar sense of alienation from surrounding reality. His ego is called Hayong, and I honestly couldn't find much on it. I've seen claims that it was one of Yi's aliases, but I could not find proof for it. Yi Sang was a pen name to begin with.
Oh.
It might be a reversal of how Yong Ha, one of the most common Korean names, is written, but the characters don't match. If there are any Korean speakers in the audience, please let me know what to make of this.
Yeah, I don't speak Korean. I barely do English.
Call me Ishmael. Ishmael is the first-person narrator.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. You call me Ishmael, the whale, makes sense. That, I have no idea how that's relevant.
Of Moby Dick or The Whale, written by Herman Melville in 1851.
Also, I'm just going to be completely honest. I've tried reading this. I cannot stand Melville's writing. Partially because he kept doing diatribes about the fish whales. Because he thought they were fish, not mammals. And he would just go on and on as if he's an authority about it. I mean, every writer needs to bullshit. And he bullshitted a lot. So much. It's like he's trying to prove how much he knew. It's a writing style. I don't like it. Mostly because he was also verifiably wrong at the time. Because I'm pretty sure people knew they were not fish there and then.
Tells the story of Captain Ahab's obsession with hunting down the white whale that bit his leg off on his ship's previous voyage. At first, I thought that Ahab would fit the shared theme of the Limbus cast better, that being, in one form or another, ego and either embracing it or disassociating from it. The captain's quest is positively insane and rooted in an obsession to take revenge on an animal that he hunted for profit to begin with. But then I thought about it. Who better to fit a theme of disassociation than a character that is part of the events of the story, but who is such a non-participant that nobody ever bothered to ask him for his real name? The name Ishmael in the Bible is associated with orphans, exiles, and other social outcasts, people on the fringes of society. And yet...
And considering the time period Moby Dick is written in, Call Me Ishmael also matters because Ishmael was on the East Coast. But starting at this time period and earlier and definitely later, the concept of Shanghaiing came up, so people would be kidnapped and just made to work on ships. Not pirate ships either, just ships. So, yeah, I have no idea how much that will play into it or not, because again, I have not got to Ishmael's Canto, so it might be relevant, it might not. I do not know. This is another video that's just making me want to play this more, and I just need to do that, damn it.
It's this one sailor that lives to tell the tale after the ship is sunk by the white whale once more. Her ego is called hers, and in the novel, Ahab is told that before his death, he will see two of these, one made from American wood and one not made by mortal hands. The latter is the white whale itself, as a body of the harpooner Fedallah is entangled on top of it. The wooden one is the ship itself, carrying the corpses of all the crew other than Ishmael, who rises to the surface in a coffin that was on board of the ship. Wait, is that the motherfucking JoJo reference?
I'll be honest, I haven't actually watched JoJo or read it. I love a lot of what it is, but I just can't get into it for some reason. I just can't stand Dio in part 1. He's so over the top, but like not as over the top funny as he becomes in later interactions, which I know about. It's just early on with, especially episode 1, I just can't stand the guy. And he is basically the main character, at least in the first episode. Lightning?
I have not broken your heart. You have broken it. And in breaking it, you have broken mine. Coming in hot from the 1847 novel Wuthering Heights, written by Emily Bront, Heathcliff is the epitome of spite. The story centers on two well-off families, Earnshaws and Lintons, and Heathcliff is an adopted son of the former house. His life is miserable as he's mistreated by almost everyone but Mr. Earnshaw and his daughter Catherine. The two grow close, but in the end she decides to just stay friends and marry Edgar Linton. So Heathcliff, like the healthy individual he is, marries Edgar's sister, horribly mistreats her, then under threat of death forces his son to marry Catherine and Edgar's daughter to become the owner of both estates. Oh yeah, and he digs up Catherine's corpse to look at her as she died at childbirth. At the end, with his revenge fulfilled and both estates in his name, Heathcliff just loses all will to live and wanders the home of Wuthering Heights, staring blankly at walls, until one day he is found dead with heavy rain pouring over his corpse from an open window. His ego is named Revenge, which is pretty self-explanatory really, and the character...
Yeah. Here's the thing. I can't stand these novels. Not a personal problem with them, I just never could deal with them, and this is probably one of them. I know enough about it that I don't want to know more, and that's actually more of the plot than I knew. Does make me wonder just how horrible is Heathcliff will be, because so far he seems like the most down-to-earth, murder-bent person in the show, or game. And honestly, all of them are kind of horrible, so that's not saying much.
Art drives the point of how much misery and death was caused by him because he couldn't marry a woman that was technically his sister.
Yeah. I recognize that music. They're playing Emmy in the background. Nice. Also, Don Quixote is probably the book I know the most about out of every one of these. Just because Don Quixote is such a good novel. It actually holds up to current sensibilities even. And it's not a current novel. It wasn't current in the 50s, man. But I also am more familiar with the play because I saw them more recently.
Por alcanzar la estrella inalcanzable, to reach the unreachable star. First released in 1605, the ingenious gentleman Don Quixote...
1605! Okay, I'm going to be honest. I would have thought it was 1805. I've read this damn book. I did not realize it was 1605. That is 400 years old. Damn.
of La Mancha is a novel written by Miguel de Cervantes. In it, the eponymous born noble reads so many books on chivalric ideals that he decides to become a knight-errant, slaying monsters and saving ladies in distress, along with his trusty squire Sancho. Only issue is, he lives in a day and age that has long abandoned these ideals.
Yes, the so enlightened and futuristic 1600s. There were infantry cavalry charges in World War I. It worked about as well as you think it did, but it happened.
Some might even say that they never existed outside of fiction to begin with.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of people would definitely say that. Or people would play into it because they knew it would let people enjoy them more. Take that phrasing however you wish.
Don Quixote has been quite mimetic for attacking windmills, saying that they are hill giants, but there's also things like proclaiming his love to a woman he never met, and trying to constantly be a hero by assaulting people minding their own business, like a procession of pilgrims. The man is so lost in the world of honorable knights and fair ladies, a genre which I need to say was spawned and extremely popular in Cervantes times, that he completely misunderstands the much more complex and interesting world around him. Though he did free a bunch of galley slaves, so at least he did one thing right. However, modern interpretations of the story are much more understanding of Don Quixote, painting him as a man too idealistic for the world he lives in.
Just to give a concept, Don Quixote as a book is not written to be nice to Don Quixote. I know it's kind of covered right here, but I love the book because I am more in line with the initial interpretations in the plays from it. When he's talking about the more modern aspects, because he's actually mentioning, I'm going to bring it up right now. My favorite interpretations are always the plays of Don Quixote, where you're basically playing into the concept of a dream that you cannot reach, but you need to have. It does change based on the retelling, but it's an impossible dream, how that is so important and fundamental. And because what he's dreaming, what Don Quixote is saying is not possible and not real, it becomes more important than the reality itself, which is destroying him and everything else. But that is not the initial book. The initial book has that, but it's played off as, see all this bullshit you guys are looking at? It's meant as satire. It just isn't interpreted that way a lot later on. And I'm very much one of the people who intentionally is okay with not interpreting it that way. It's also one of the reasons I prefer the later plays for it more than the initial book.
Most famous modern edition is the Broadway musical Man of La Mancha, from which both the quote and the name of his ego come from. Sueño imposible means impossible dream, which is the name of probably the most famous song of the entire show. The character art prominently features a merry-go-round spinning around like a windmill and being just a child's play version of riding a horse. Also, I have to mention how one of my mutuals, hi Saf, mentioned how he's the only character in the cast that doesn't look like he would mug you for a pack of cigarettes. It's kinda hilarious, honestly.
Wait, what?
Hi Saf, mentioned how he's the only character in the cast that doesn't look like he would mug you for a pack of cigarettes.
Oh, they were referring to Don as a he, because Don Quixote in the book was male, so they probably assumed it was just a pretty boy.
It's kinda hilarious, honestly.
Considering Canto 8 just came out, I have no idea how accurate or not this is going to be, because I do not know this.
Mei Congkung Buzu Haoshi Duomo. All is good if not for one thing. The road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. A fun fact, that quote is two idioms put together and machine translation really doesn't like that, but I hope my translation of trying to fit the two together is possible.
I don't
Trying
know
to make
nearly
it a
enough
bit
about
more
Honglu.
poetic to fit the theme. Dream of the Red Chamber, or Honglu Man, is one of the great Chinese works of literature, written down by Suao Xueqin, who was in the direct service of the Qing dynasty and first printed in 1791. It tells the story of a sentient stone left behind when the goddess Nua mended the heavens. It wishes to enjoy the pleasures of red dust, or the mundane world, and is reborn as a boy born with a piece of jade in his mouth. The novel's story spans across years and depicts the rise and decline of wealth and status, the lasting power of love, and, according to many critics, Buddhist enlightenment of realizing how fleeting the material world is. The titular Red Chamber, or Honglu, is present in the protagonist's dream in one chapter, foreshadowing the fate of several characters. Look, I'll be honest, the translation of this book is almost 1000 pages long and I don't have that kind of lifespan.
Damn. That's full-on small Brandon Harrison work at that point.
But I do have enough lifespan to watch the 30-something episodes TV series adaptation that won several awards that I learned of when writing the script. Just throwing this out there to anyone else that feels like an ingesting.
It's also subless on YouTube. Probably not that hard to look. Oh, so they have it on YouTube, but not without subtitles. I cannot do it. I can barely do it with subtitles.
Some culture after it was cut into bite-sized pieces by the chef.
Also, I'm being told by chat that Canto 8 is actually pretty accurate to the message of the book, but not the book itself. Oh, see, now that's fascinating to me, because right now this is both spoilers and not spoilers at the same time. So everything he says about what happened, we could say like, oh, that's cool. But the messaging of it being more about enlightenment, essentially, that could be very interesting.
Ego is called Taishu Huaijing, which translates to illusory world or universe, which is in line with the dualist themes of real world being all just a set of illusions like in Demian, and the disconnection someone enlightened would feel from the surroundings.
And the one I know very little about altogether.
Kaina de no eshi ni wa sojite niniku monono utsukushisa nadoto mosu koto wa wakarou hazu ga gozaimasenu. Other painters are such mediocrities, they cannot appreciate the beauty of ugliness. Alluding to Hellscreen, a 1918 short story written by Ryunosuke.
I didn't realize she had so many what looked like abnos chained up behind her.
Akutagawa, which centers around a famous painter Yoshihide, tasked by the local lord to paint a folding screen depicting the 8 Buddhist hells. Yoshihide is not one to shy away from gruesome study for his work, often doing things like just sitting down next to a corpse laying by the road and sketching it in minute detail. He commits more and more questionable acts, like having an owl attack his apprentice, in pursuit of perfectly painting torment and torture, which culminates in him requesting the Lord to burn down a carriage with a woman in it, burning alive, as the final piece of the screen. So of course, Yoshihide witnesses his daughter being consumed by flames, finishes his work and hangs himself. But the Limbus character is not named Yoshihide. She's named Ryoshu, which means Lord, and no matter what depravity the painter's obsession committed in the name of art, the one true despicable person in the story is the Lord who commissioned the whole thing. The entire story is framed as a servant telling the story, and despite heaping praise on their sire, it is painfully obvious that the feudal lord is a piece of shit. He's generous, so he offered a favorite servant of his as human sacrifice for a temple. He's just, and that's why he instantly denied Yoshihide's plea to let his daughter stop working at the mansion despite previously stating he can have anything for his previous work. He is honorable, and that's why he tried to rape the girl and had her burn alive when that didn't work out. The background art depicts the hell on earth in the form of the city's back streets. Specifically, the 5 fingers allude to the powerful syndicates.
Oh, I thought those were abnos or the abnormalities. Apparently, no, that's actually the various syndicates. Yeah, the thumb, because I recognize that from the new one that just came out. I don't know who that is. The middle, yeah, the chains in purple. The thumb and the index, I don't know nearly enough about them. Okay, this is actually a lot more interesting than I realized, because I just didn't have enough context of the sea to realize how directly referenced everything is.
Known as, well, fingers. Her ego is a set of 3 Yojijikugo, Japanese 4-character idioms. They are as follow: Mugamuchu, selfless focus; Abi Kyokai, pandemonium, agonized screams; Shiri Metsuretsu, incoherent, illogical, not making sense. So in full, it can be translated as something like senseless, selfless focus on tortured screams, I think.
Oh. I'm almost wondering if her eventual role will be her playing out as someone who is pretty high rank, controlling most of them, like they were her hand. Because I get the impression a lot of people had different jobs, and hers definitely seems someone who would enjoy the violence.
Aujourd'hui, maman est morte. Au pépetier, je ne sais pas. Mother died today, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't know.
Yep, that is a phrase, and immediately telling you exactly who this guy is, not connected.
Protagonist of 1942 novella The Stranger, penned by Albert Camus, Meursault is a man
Camus? Oh, that's a different... I mean, he's European, specifically. That would be Last Minute Essays mentioned. He's very European. So he's probably pronouncing it correct. I've always heard it pronounced as Camus. I've never heard otherwise, and if I didn't know who The Stranger was, I would be very off about this. Huh.
Indifferent to everything. He attends his mother's funeral but does not weep or show other signs of grief, gets into a sexual relationship just the day after, speaks his mind without a care for other person's feelings, and, at the end of the first part of the story, shoots an Arab man in cold blood with seemingly no reason. His internal narration focuses not on the victim or any turmoil caused by his death, but on how bothered Meursault is by the heat and sunlight.
Also, I'd never noticed this before because I never saw the full image. He has End Corp right behind him, so yeah, he definitely was from there. Which is why he was slightly aware of it during the 3rd canto, yeah.
Sunlight. His ego is called sun in French, which is the only explanation novel Meursault has for the murder. The sun was in his eyes, and that's why he shot the Arab. Sun not as something to be praised and prayed to, a benevolent force of light and warmth, but an irritating eyesore. Meursault is so disconnected from the world around him that he does not share the common, seemingly universal cultural associations. And Limbus Meursault is so disconnected from the world that there seems to not be a speck of color in his entire character art. It's all the same to him.
I only know this because the previous books talking about the inspirations, but the director took a lot of inspiration, of course. But one of them, The Stranger, the book we just talked about with Meursault, was one of the ones he read prior to creation of this. So that was probably his input, unless someone else on the team actually did it. I don't actually know. Would love to find out more about the interviews.
My name is Outis. Outis is the Greek word for nobody, most famously used as a pseudonym by Odysseus in the Odyssey, a collection of poems written by Homer circa 8th century BCE. In the Odyssey, when meeting the Cyclops, Odysseus claims that his name is Outis, or nobody.
And then immediately gets hunted down by a singing version of Poseidon. Oh, wait, that's a different one. But yeah, joking aside, if they're still going by nobody, I wonder if there's a god coming after them.
When the hero strikes the monster in its one eye, the giant cries, "Nobody is trying to kill me!" And so nothing comes to its rescue, despite it being the son of Poseidon. The ego is the same word but written in Greek alphabet. In general, the character seems peculiar. The ego name is not seen anywhere on the weapon, unlike...
Also, I just realized those are faces behind them in that whatever that is. Ah.
Like on the other art, the name repeats itself. The quote is in English rather than Greek. It's as if Outis was a blank slate, devoid of identity, truly a no one. The character art might...
And that actually is reflected in-game because they immediately give up their own opinions to agree with the manager.
allude to Trojan War, but that's all I have. On a side note, the Latin equivalent of Outis is Nemo, so I hope that the Kane office plays some role here.
I don't know nearly enough about them.
As der Mensch, solang strebt.
Faust.
Man errs as long as he strives. Faust is a legendary character, but his most
And their art was literally the Limbus bus.
famous rendition is that from the stage play of the same name by Johann Wolfgang von
Goethe. Wait, what? The most famous?
His most famous rendition is that from the stage play of... Faust is a legendary character, but his most famous rendition is that from the stage play of the...
Oh. See, that's actually news to me. I knew Faust from this play. Maybe not the one I'm most versed on, but I knew of it from this. I didn't realize they were legend prior to the play. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, though, because a lot of plays were based on just stealing mythologies. But I didn't realize it, which means there's probably other inspirations they could be taking from. I did not know that.
Same name by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, first published in 1808. The titular scholar is bored of the limits of human knowledge and is approached by a demon called Mephistopheles.
Also, for anyone wondering about the limits of human knowledge, for a lot of the 1800s and honestly even the early 1900s, there was a belief that everything about the world that could be known was known, and we had discovered nearly everything. So we're kind of like, yeah, there's a few little dregs, but the big things are all gone. There's no more discoveries. We have everything. This is it. This is the extent of knowledge. We're at the end of learning. Yeah. I'm playing it up a bit, but only a bit, because that essentially was what a lot of scholars believed. Most people who didn't know about that line of thought, that was like, that seems stupid. But they also, it's like, they're not scholars, so they never bother to ask. Yeah.
Offering him magical powers and the ability to do anything he wants for the price of his soul. The catch being that if Faust is ever pleased to the point where he wished that the moment would never pass, he would die instantly. Side note, but I always love the quote from Mephistopheles claiming that he is part of that force that always wills the evil and always produces the good, explicitly stating that he is up to no good, but luring Faust in, claiming the opposite of the road to hell being paved with good intentions. That's what we call a false equivalence, kids. The ego is called Walpurgisnacht, which is the night of Saint Walpurgis, the last night of April, which in Germany is often associated with witches meeting.
And also plays into the one spending event where it's actually predatory as opposed to every other part of the year where the game is legitimately almost free to play. In the sense that it's actually free.
On the Broken Mountain and consorting with the devil. As most Saints' X Day, it is believed to be a pagan holiday.
And all of the Walpurgis Night events are usually egos from previous references and fan service. And that way, showing that the devil is literally Lobotomy Corporation.
Retrofitted into Christian canon by the church. In the play, Faust visits the broken on Walpurgisnacht, where Mephistopheles tries to get him laid so that he stops thinking about Gretchen, a young woman that he seduced and impregnated when turned into a young man by magic. And that's all, folks. 12 characters, 12 accounts of ego.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Magic. A young on Walpurgisnacht, where Mephistopheles tries to get him laid so that he stops thinking about Gretchen, a young woman that he seduced and impregnated when turned into a young man by magic. And
I was going to say, what did Faust do? But I'm now wondering, who did Faust do? Because, that would be a different, I was not expecting that part. I missed that part.
And that's all, folks. 12 characters, 12 accounts of egoism or lack of self. Hopefully, 12 interesting spins on the idea in Limbus once it comes out.
Oh yeah, Gregor, changed self. Rodion, deluded self. Sinclair, self torn between halves. Isang, self suppressed by comfort. Ishmael, hidden self. Heathcliff, self defined by others. Honestly, I'd almost think that's more Meursault. Don Quixote, idealized self. Hong Lu, reborn self. Ryoshu, self-perceived by others. Meursault, unexpressed self. Outis, lack of self. Faust, self-sold for power.
Shame we didn't get any Polish representation. Next time. It's always the next time. Actually, quick addendum, as a new character was revealed just as I was editing the audio, so I'm doing this bit unscripted. Dante, most famously the protagonist of Devil May Cry. Second most...
I was wondering, I thought he... Yeah, that makes sense. Because Dante technically is a character, not just your character, not the self-insert, he's an actual character. Also says Durante. I just realized that. I've never seen the full art of that. Also, Croc, you mentioned, remember, in Romantic Era, the only reliable way to win with the devil when making a pact with him is to escape to the moon on a giant rooster. No making it up. I have no idea what that's a reference to, and I feel it's a reference to something, and it's bugging me that I don't know it.
Most famously, Dante Alighieri wrote the Divine Comedy, which was finished in 1320. It's a
1320. Yeah, that makes sense. Also known as, this is literally a tell-all book that he wrote in such a way that they wouldn't try and exile him again, even though he was already exiled when he wrote it. And this was a, you exiled me? Well, I'm going to write things about the people at home. Yeah, the Inferno is literally a diss track.
Story about his journey throughout hell, then purgatory and heaven to find his dead love, with the companionship of his senpai Virgilius. It's very much a fanfic, so never let anyone tell you that you're a subpar writer because you write fanfics, but it's very important for Italian poetry in general. Interestingly, the ego is named Durante, which was Dante's real name.
But he doesn't have an ego. Oh. At what point do we get to have 13 sinners fight?
So there is an implication that rather than ego, this might be, true name, like in demon mythos where someone's true name gives them power over you, which is interesting when it repeats with Outis, but again, this is just speculation based on the fact that we got one art that I didn't expect, so grain of salt. This video was made thanks to my wonderful Patreon supporters, now visible on the screen. Please consider joining their association if you like what I'm doing.
Also, I'm being told it was an April Fool's event. Ah, got it. And the weapon names are what's being referenced, not ego names. Ah. That's probably why he assumed Rocinante was the name of the ego for Don then.
Or just save my ego by sharing the video and interacting with it. Next video is already written and recorded, so stay tuned.
Nice. Honestly, I'll watch more of this guy's stuff. I like his style. I would like to see if he did an update of this after the game came out, because this is a 3-year-old video that came out in November of 2021. I would love to see if he updated to see if, okay, here's what I got right, here's what I got wrong. I don't know, but I would love to find out more. Also, all the I know all the events in Limbus Company are canon, so technically if there's an April Fool's event where Dante fights, it happened, which is kind of amazing to me. I do like this one. I will admit, I thought I knew more about Faust than I thought, because I've only ever admittedly read about the play, never actually seen it myself. Oddly enough, I don't know anyone who actually does perform it. Or let me rephrase that. I don't know anyone who actually performs Faust that I could afford to see. That is a very big distinction. Yeah. Necro, you mentioned Flying to the Moon was the escape. To escape a witch from Astolfo. Okay, that makes more sense. They're crazy, even in their initial books. I need to go play Limbus Company, man. In fact, I'm just going to go watch the trailer right now. No, I'll do that later. If I do it now, I will just stop the stream immediately. Even though I did find it right there, I could just do it right now. No, I will resist. I'm not going to watch the trailer right now. Because the Walpurgis trailer just came out. I will resist. I'm resisting. I am not giving in to temptation and immediately watching it. It is so tempting. I'm not. Even if I want to, I'm not. I have restraint. And if you believe that, you're also as wrong as I am. Basically what I'm saying, though, is Last Minute Essays did a great job about this. I love how they're covering this, and I love getting into the detail when it comes to Limbus Company and how there's so many literary references into it. It's just fun, man. I would love to see how there's maybe a retrospective of what references did we not get that were actually in the game later on as the cantos progress. Because that seems like the next step, that there's always the overarching cantos and then the ones that seem to turn out to be more relevant than we realized later. And I want that video next. If anyone knows where I can find that, let me know, because I need my Limbus Company fix, man. I need it. I need my precious. Either way, thanks for watching, everyone. And again, links below. Original video. Hit it up. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.